Welcome back to my channel. As I said on my first video, while I have been focusing on the tactics trolls use, it is almost always the same tactics used in politics. This includes major social issues which tend to be wrapped up in politics too. But playing the race card may be the most evil tactic I see used, and it is all over the place in politics. We understand that racism is a very bad thing, but I submit that since we recognize it as a very bad thing, it is also very bad to falsely accuse someone of racism. But once again, I'll be using internet trolls as examples of spreading false claims of racism. Actually, 2 of them. Hopefully you can recognize the same thing being done in politics. I've seen deliberate misinformation about what someone said by trolls, politicians, and plenty of the major media. I simply checked the original source material and saw that the accused person not only made no such statement, but said the opposite. Yet the false charge is still believed by most. Remember the repetition equals truth tactic I talked about before. Why is this so common? Well, as one fool politician said, it's not the nature of the evidence, it's the seriousness of the charge. Well, there is no shortage of politicians who will love to make up serious charges. It's a game to them to keep the opposition on the defensive instead of debating legitimate issues. Think of it as the politics of personal destruction. In politics, it isn't just to smear an innocent person from the opposing political party. You see, once they successfully smear one person, then they get to smear anyone remotely associated with them. I'm going to show all that, from the false charge of racism to how it is then used to smear many others, but using YouTube vloggers as my examples. Let's start with what a troll bases his claim of racism on, and then show how it wasn't racist at all. Mickey Mouse used clips from RJ Sandifer's channel. RJ was talking to Crazy Kid and relates this story.
But these 2 Filipinos were speaking in Tagalog. And I politely asked them, "What are you guys doing?" "Oh, we're speaking in Tagalog." I said, "So, where are you?" And I said, "Are you in the Philippines?" And they said, "No." I said, "Where are you?" Well, we're in the United States." I said, "Well, then you can speak English."
I bet pretty much everyone thinks that was rude, or at least inappropriate. I agree. And some of you may even think it was racist, but I defy you to show actual racism. It was about using the language of the country you were in. Language isn't a race. Location isn't a race. More importantly, the view he was expressing would apply to whites from Italy, Germany, France, Poland, etc., who visited an English-speaking country. Even more important, it would also apply to Americans visiting countries where a different language was spoken. Equal treatment in the same situation is pretty much the opposite of racism. That doesn't make RJ correct. It simply means it wasn't racist. After I pointed out he was wrong, he admitted he was. Mickey also attacked Crazy Kid for being a racist. But just as with RJ, Mickey is just wrong. Here's what Crazy Kid said.
When you're out in public, you speak English. When you're behind your closed doors at your apartment or your home, if you're in public, you have to speak what the public is speaking.
I suspect most, including me, disagree with Crazy Kid, but he wasn't being racist either. None of it was treating people differently by race. The example they were dealing with was in an English-speaking country, but the view they expressed would apply to any country. Consider the next statement by Mickey.
Let's look at the definition of a bigot. A person who is obstinately or unreasonably attached to a belief, opinion, or faction, especially one who is prejudiced against or antagonistic towards a person or people.
Okay, but I can't help but notice a key problem. There was no prejudice against a person or people by RJ or Crazy Kid. The only person I see having a problem with being obstinate and unreasonable in the face of facts is Mickey. How many times has he said words are only 7% of communication? How many times has he claimed I said body language doesn't work? How many times has he claimed P said you should pay girlfriend alimony? How many times has he said P said saving face justified lying? He was wrong on every one of those things, but he can't change. Just taking that first example, you have to admit he is pretty obstinate when I've shown the author of the study said Mickey's view was absurd. No retraction by Mickey. We then get Mickey giving the definition of a racist.
Let's look at the definition of racist. A person who is prejudiced against or antagonistic towards people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group. Holy cow! Against Filipinos? RJ's the one who's simping with all these other Filipinas, trying to get their, attention.
Where is the prejudice? Sure, it was inappropriate to tell people they should only speak English in the United States when in public. But there was nothing about race, and, as already pointed out, it would apply equally in any country and any language. But playing the race card is necessary to smear people. Just pointing out the mistake RJ and Crazy Kid made can't be used to smear others. But Mickey needs to do that. Now, having established that none of this was about bigotry or racism, let's watch how Mickey takes his false charge and also applies it to many more people, just like politicians do. It starts with him pretending to just ask a question, but it's like the "do you still beat your wife" type question.
Are these friends of the Filipina P and maybe a good amount of our viewers racist? Bigots, maybe?
In that statement, Mickey is also trying to tie his phony accusation to the Filipina P and a good amount of her viewers. That's pretty impressive, in a sick way, for something that isn't even true to begin with.
And you know what they say, right? You are who you are that you keep around you. And if you're not that, and you keep them around you, though, then guess what?
So we've gone from these two fans possibly being racist and bigots to using guilt by association to criticize P, sort of like when Mickey literally made up a claim that there was a 90% chance P didn't pay her taxes simply because many Filipino vloggers did not. He doesn't care if it's true or not. He's a smear merchant. Of course, he puts things in the form of a question, even as it is clear what conclusion he is promoting.
Are these two men a bunch of racists?
Well, no, as I've actually documented. Remember the escalation tactic in politics. Mickey is already doing that and will do more.
These two are just, a segment from the population, but more than likely guaranteed is of a majority. It's just the truth.
Don't you love that? Mickey goes from saying a segment to more than likely to guaranteed it's a majority to it's just the truth. Yet he can't know any of that without checking over 300,000 subscribers. But of course, since his original statement about bigotry and racism were wrong, the rest of what he says has no value. Then Mickey goes into defensive mode after literally smearing most of P's viewers.
Now, I'm not saying all of the Filipino P's people are this way.
That sounds a lot like when real racists in the 1960s would say, "I'm not saying all blacks are this way." Mickey keeps pushing his smear that was disproven.
If the Filipina P, after this, tolerates it and still have these guys around her chat, and she knows who they are, then does that mean that the Filipina P tolerates potential guys that may be racists, maybe bigots? Filipina P, this is your boy. You're harboring this guy.
See what I mean? It wasn't about those two guys themselves. It was about smearing them, leading to smearing most of her fans, to finally go after his main target, which is the Filipina P, even though the original accusation wasn't even true, just like you see in politics. As I said, I had two examples of people making these false attacks of racism about RJ and Crazy Kid. Let's look at the second one making pretty much the same mistakes Mickey did. This one is from the channel Joanne the Panay Tigress. Her channel hasn't been active for quite a while, but I see some of her videos claiming racism are still showing. She used the same source that Mickey did, but a different clip. Let's look at the clip she hangs the charge of racism on. It's a statement made by Crazy Kid.
If you're not willing to abide by the laws, the customs, the traditions, and be respectful to the people that live there
exactly
all the time, then yeah, there's a plane that leaves the Philippines constantly. Be on one of them. I don't care where it sends you. Be on one of them.
To which Joanne said this.
So they're both saying that if you're in their country, you should speak in English.
Yes, as I pointed out earlier, they both thought you should speak English if in an English-speaking country. But their policy also applied to any language in any country, thus maybe misguided, but definitely not racist. But this clip she used really just shows that Joanne didn't listen well, because Crazy Kid was not talking about how foreigners should leave the US or Canada if they don't respect the laws, customs, and traditions, did he? He specifically said you should get on a plane and leave the Philippines if you can't respect their laws, customs, and traditions. Which also happens to confirm my earlier point, that it had nothing to do with racism, but everything to do with respect for the country you are a guest in. But just as Mickey used a bogus claim of racism to drag P into it, so does Joanne.
For Filipino P, these are your friends. They claim that they are friends with you. So I'm going to wait for you to call them out. Are you going to tolerate racism like this to your fellow Filipinos?
First, fans on a YouTube channel are not exactly what qualify as friends in any traditional sense. P's over 300,000 subscribers may feel they are her friends, and that's fine, but it isn't the same as traditional friendships. But the second problem invalidates any charge Joanne wants to make, because in the clip she chose of Crazy Kid, he was criticizing visitors to the Philippines, not Filipinos. It's also interesting that Joanne is suddenly interested in protecting Filipinos from racist attacks that didn't even happen. Yet she has been directly involved with Mickey, even though he has been documented attacking a number of Filipinas if they dared disagree with him. And, of course, he attacked them by lying about what they said. He has even made attacks on the parents of Filipinas he disagrees with. Did Mickey fool her into blindly accepting his false claims? I don't know, but it might be wise not to play the guilt by association card when you work with Mickey. Oh, wait, Mickey turned on Joanne later. Since there is nothing new on her channel, maybe she learned her lesson, but the videos falsely claiming racism still remain when they should be taken down. Joanne wants P to focus on Filipinas first and is waiting for her to deal with racism. Of course, we've already established the whole racism charge was bogus, so there is nothing to wait for. But okay, let's see what P has done for Filipinos, just for perspective, and nothing to do with the racism topic. Soon after starting her channel, P was doing various random acts of kindness for those in need, giving food and cash. In one episode, she visited a family in trouble because the father was sick and unemployed. They got food, mattresses, a laptop, and even internet service so the daughter could continue school during COVID, and also provided money to start their own business.
I'm giving you the chance to start your own business of your choice.
Well, thank you.
Kuya, sorry to you guys. I'm gonna cry
I
too.
don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just crying because I'm happy.
Oh, wait. Kuya's making me...
That's just the beginning. She has done 4 major Christmas productions where she has fed an entire community, along with toys and stuff for the parents, and giving 5 laptops to deserving students who are struggling to complete their schooling.
5 laptops for 5 outstanding, hardworking students.
Another Christmas, she brought gifts and school supplies for every one of the 536 students at a poor school. Also gifts for each teacher, every classroom, and things for the school itself. These projects cost thousands of dollars, not pesos, dollars. For another Christmas, she found a family of 6 which was living in nothing more than a chicken coop. She built them a nice house, along with lots of gifts for the kids. On the same Christmas, she also found a girl she had helped before who was trying to finish college but was out of money and her parents were poor. So P paid every school expense so she could not only graduate but have the certification test paid for as well. P also virtually adopted a very old lady living alone, bringing her food, medication, and other necessities. She even brought in a healthcare professional to give her a checkup. She went so far as to give the lady a cell phone and her personal phone number so she could call anytime, day or night. In another case, after a typhoon hit, P provided supplies and money to people who lost everything. She built an elderly couple a little home to replace the one that was destroyed, as well as a new boat so the husband could continue his job of fishing. A family of 4 living in the mountains was also provided with a new home and gifts. I've seen other channels do good things, but there are some big differences, at least with those I've seen. Often they ask for donations. That may be fine. Some people accuse them of keeping much of the money themselves, but since nobody actually knows and they are just making assumptions, I'm sure not going to accuse anyone of that. But then, I'm also not sending the money to people I don't know about either. But P doesn't ask for money. When someone on her YouTube comment section asks to send money to help, she tells them she isn't a charity and she has it covered. Or she'll suggest giving to an official charity, sometimes even giving contact information. On her Patreon, when someone asks about sending money, she tells them they have already provided it by being patrons. In other words, she isn't asking for anything extra for her charity work. And of those I've seen do charity work, P does it more and does it much bigger. Of course, as I have documented repeatedly, there are nasty people out there who do little or nothing but make false accusations about P taking advantage of supporters by doing charity videos. But the fact is, her charity videos tend to get far less attention than her other videos. If P just wanted to make money, she could just sit on a chair and discuss plenty of different issues and make more money without spending a dime and without investing the huge amount of time the charity efforts require. Why spend thousands of dollars that will earn her less and take more work? Maybe because she grew up in poverty and is trying to help Filipinos. Bad people are, if nothing else, consistent. Besides trashing people who spend their own money to help others, they trash them for not helping their own family, which was a baseless assumption anyway. And if they do help, they somehow manage to trash them anyway. Mickey claimed that because P's parents and younger siblings lived in a shack, she wasn't helping her family. Yet it was already known that she was paying for her brothers to go to school, one in high school and another in college. That's a pretty big deal, but it doesn't mean that's all she did. More amazing was that in the same video where we first saw the shack they lived in, P announced she needed to build them a home. So why did Mike assume she didn't care? Just a few months later, they started construction. When complete, P gave a detailed breakdown of the total cost, which I think was about $29,000. So that should make Mike happy, right? Of course not. On a live stream with Joanne, he claimed that price wasn't possible and it had to cost much more. Why complain about that? They got a nice house. He paid for it and doesn't even live there. Mickey is like an old lady gossiper. Mickey specializes in being ignorant and apparently didn't realize that they already own the land, thus reducing costs, and probably more important, she had family who did construction, so they built the home themselves. That saved a lot of money. But there were more erroneous assumptions. In the discussion with Joanne, somehow they got the idea that she either built a home in Dumaguete or Cebu. Well, okay, build in pretty much any city and you'll pay more money. And some islands in general will cost more than other islands. But what matters is this: the home wasn't in Cebu or Dumaguete. Heck, it wasn't even one of the 2 islands those cities are on. Some people just talk out of ignorance, but do so with confidence, which fools many people. Which does bring us back to politics and charges of racism, always said with confidence, as if there is no question about it. In reality, it is usually either wrong or a flat-out lie. Thanks for watching, and don't let the trolls stop you from speaking out.